गम पे अक्सर नाज फरमाता है दिल और कभी खुद ही बहल जाता है दिल। क्या बताऊं मैं ये दिल से पूछिए, आप ही के गीत क्यों गाता है दिल। अव्वल अव्वल दिल को बहलाते थे हम, आखिर आखिर हमको बहलाता है दिल। कह नहीं सकती ज़ुबानी इश्क भी, बात जो आंखों से कह जाता है दिल। इतना मंसूबे गिरां ख्वाबी है क्यों, देखिए क्या क्या ख्वाब दिखलाता है दिल। वॉइस ऑफ इंडिया पे मैं हूँ योगराज गुप्ता। आप सबको मेरा आदाब, नमस्कार और प्यार भरी सत श्री अकाल। प्रोग्राम में मेरा साथ दे रहे हैं मोहतरमा ज्योति कालसी। ज्योति जी, आपका वॉइस ऑफ इंडिया पे हार्दिक स्वागत करते हैं।
थैंक यू।
आज हमारे स्टूडियो में विशेष मेहमान हैं, एक एंटरप्रेन्योर, वेरी सक्सेसफुल बिजनेसमैन, प्रोमिनेंट बिजनेसमैन सचित मेहरा जी। वॉइस ऑफ इंडिया रेडियो पे आपका हार्दिक स्वागत करते हैं।
Gupta ji, Sat Shri Akal, Namaskar ji, Jyoti. Thank you so much for having me today. Really appreciate it.
It's actually a pleasure to have you.
Thank
You know, today's topic would be more on almost everything that's going on. Like the big elephant in the room is COVID. You know that.
The world has changed over the last 7 months, and it's changed for everyone.
Exactly. Yeah, and we'll touch base a little bit on the resilient, like you being, as Gupta ji mentioned, successful entrepreneurs. Everybody knows you and have experienced your hospitality and customer service.
अब इनके जो इन्वायरमेंट है ना, सिटी या विनिपेग में, विनिपेग बिज काउंसिल में कई बहुत सी कमेटियों के ये रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, which is a great, in such a young age he has so much passion for serving the community, which is really great.
Gupta ji, I always say I'm just a reflection of people I'm around, and that speaks to you. So thank you.
आप ये बताएं कि कोविड के दौरान what are the challenges you faced?
Oh my God, how much time do we have?
I know.
We can share the highlight.
Yeah.
You know, it's, I mean, it started in March for everyone. And we saw it, I mean, मेरी बात Ottawa से होती रहती है. We have restaurants there as well. And we saw what was coming from Quebec. We saw it in Ontario. And, you know, we saw it coming into Manitoba. And so what that meant was, you know, what were the changes we were going to have to make sure we were still going to be around on the other side of, you know, at that time we thought 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, you know, which is typical of what we've seen with crises in the past, you know, whether it was SARS or it was the financial crisis, it was always about a 3-month curve, and then you had a recovery curve. Right now, it's not about a recovery curve. You still have the 3-month curve, and if you follow what happened with COVID, certainly March, April, May, and then June, people started to kind of come back a little bit.
Opening up a little bit.
A little bit.
But with a limitation, with the health authority, yes.
That's exactly correct. But now what you have is, until we have a therapy or a vaccine or a herd immunity, or at least 2 or 3 of those main things applied, everything in between of that, you know, the 3-month curve to the therapy or the vaccine is the restart period. And we're in the midst of that restart right now. And so depending on the business that you're in, you know, it's different for restaurants, you know, in our
It's not 100%, but it's still around 50-60%.
Oh yeah, when we closed March 16th, and other restaurant people will echo this for me, you know, we fell down to, I want to say that first couple of weeks, 5, 8, maybe 10% of gross average business. And the reason was the whole idea of delivery and takeout and love local and pick up local hadn't quite started yet. And so the sales crashed. And I remember April 1st, you know, we saw these huge numbers go through the bank account because we haven't laid off a single staffer.
You have a huge staff anyway.
Yeah, we kept all our staff. You know, our staff has been so loyal to us, and, you know, we said back to them, you don't worry. We're going to keep all our staff with us. We're going to demonstrate the same loyalty that you have to us. And you know, if it's a couple of months here or there, it's no problems at all. We'll do this. And you know, that's reflected in the cuisine and what you see inside the restaurants. We're very happy about that. But that April 1st number, oh my God! You know, rent.
It's very
first
scary.
month. Oh my God! It was just nuts. So we've now recovered. We're probably at around 55% of gross average, 60%. So you're treading water.
It will. No, आप ये बताएं कि ये कोविड सिचुएशन में जो गवर्नमेंट ने फाइनेंशियल हेल्प दी है बिजनेस, उसके बाद मैंने हाईलाइट कैसा स्टेप लगा आपको?
So you had different jurisdictions, municipal, provincial, and federal, do what they could with their particular levers. Really the big impact was the federal government, and as everyone knows, they came up with several programs. There was the loan program, which was $40,000. There were also custom iterations of that depending on the size of your business. There was the CERB program for all the workers that are out there that are in the industries that are affected. And of course, famously, there's the wage subsidy program as well. And then there were some other programs like SECRA, which was intended for rent. So there was several different things that were
so it was welcoming.
Depending who qualifies. And
Correct. But they really tried to get everyone. And it was important because, as we saw the report come out 2 weeks ago, the impact to the economy in Canada was something around the 40%
that's
decline
very scary.
in the second quarter. Well, we've never seen that before. It was
First time ever,
massively impactful, and I think the response was appropriate. That's exactly what you needed to do, and so that was good, and it's welcome. I hope that's the last time that kind of response has to be triggered. I hope. I hope that the economy now, we've seen a rebound. I hope there continues to be that growth back to normal. And I'm confident because, people now know in the month of September what they didn't know in March.
Exactly. Now we are more aware and know what steps we needed to take.
नहीं आप बिज काउंसिल में बड़े इन्वॉल्व हो एक्टिव उस बिजनेस उस पर्सपेक्टिव से बताएं
on the business side.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting, social comportment inside restaurants is always fascinating, right? The days of where we had 150 or 200 people inside the restaurant on a night aren't there right now. You are seeing social distancing being practiced inside the restaurant. For our restaurants in all the locations, we're very fortunate because the restaurants are huge. आपको पता ही है हमारे रेस्टोरेंट 4,000 square foot के हैं बहुत बड़े हैं. So for us, that's very easy. We can put one table here, 6 feet next table, right? But it also means sanitation stations. It also means acrylic shields. It also means professionally managed facilities that are maintained. And it also means staff that has PPE that is equipped and in use. You can have all those things. If they're not in use, it doesn't mean anything. So there needs to be a culture within the business that's coming from management and from everybody that's involved that says safety's first for staff, for guests, and that goes through. And again, we've been leading this since March. We've had masks on with staff. I want to say right since the beginning and operating like that. So for us, it's just part of how we operate. And you see that reflected in the guests because jede guests aate hain, you can see it unke chehre pe dista hai that they are comfortable now.
So you have been proactive since the start. That has been making build up that confidence in your customers come out there.
You have to be, right? But what is interesting in our business, aapko pata hi hai, we are famous for one thing: buffets.
I was going to ask, I saw your interview early May when you said we are ready for this change. If it has to be, has to be. But I've called myself twice. Is your buffet on? So how do you feel about that? And what are your plans moving forward?
And it's a great question because if you ask any restaurant owner, forget me, put somebody else's chair, what's the main thing you have to do in your business? The number one answer you'll get is be consistent, right? And all of a sudden you've gone to an entire industry and said, don't be consistent, change everything. And in particular, our business, we've had, I want to say 3 significant pivots. We went from, dine-in and whatnot to just being takeout and delivery. For a restaurant that's serving clients to a table, now you have to move the entire operation to just doing takeout and delivery. That requires a whole different setup. And then we moved from this whole idea of doing basically a buffet style service to how do I deliver that buffet to a client on the table where the client has value, is satisfied visually with what they've received, but most importantly at our restaurant, when people leave the restaurant, they feel so full. They love that feeling of satisfaction, and you have to give them that And lastly, and maybe most importantly, the value has to be there,
Right.
right? So ये नहीं कि मैंने सुना and you feel like, oh my God.
मेरा साहब अभी हाल ही में आपने एक फंड रेजिंग इवेंट की उसके बारे में बताएं.
We did.
I saw it on social media. Yeah.
We were very fortunate, and Jyoti, we talked about this.
Yes, right. Yeah.
So in one night, everything happened.
वो आइडिया कैसे आया आपके दिमाग में?
Well, so there was.
Victoria General Hospital क्या था वो fund?
There was 2 firsts we did on September 10th, and the first one was with the Victoria General Foundation. So some of your longtime listeners and viewers will know that we've worked with Victoria General Hospital and the Miracle Garden Party for over a decade now. We've helped raise over $50,000 for the Miracle Garden, minimally invasive surgery, and other projects. And now we were talking about mental health awareness and education in our communities, and that's important. It's important to every family.
At these times, mostly I would say, right?
It's incredible.
Like it's never a topic that it's not important, but I think now it's when it's needed the most. I would say. So yeah, not that I wanted to interrupt, but I agree with you that.
You've hit the nail on the head, and especially when you consider sometimes when it's not talked about.
Right.
And maybe, in our communities or in other traditional communities, it's not necessarily talked about, it's brought to the forefront. And so being able to address it and help it and educate around that topic for us was always something that was important. So we decided to help out with this dinner, and I really have to commend the Victoria General Hospital because...
How was the response?
Phenomenal. So what ended up happening was they turned around and they said to all these restaurants, these businesses, and the organizations, you've helped us in the past.
I see.
We will help you this year.
Awesome.
And we will host these dinners at full price, and we will have people inside your restaurants. It was, Gupta ji, I can't tell you, the word community sometimes gets used in this one-way street. This came back, and this is how it works. It was phenomenal. So anyways, it was a phenomenal idea. Victoria General people, if you're listening, you did a great job. Thank you very much. But they had one of the largest distributed dinners that were seated of its kind in, I want to say, Manitoba so far. So we had 5 restaurants, about 40 people, 35, 40 people at each restaurant, connected by Zoom link.
Okay.
Awesome.
And then MCs all around, a silent auction that happened online.
It was very nice.
It was excellent, right? So it was socially distanced, safety protocols.
It was very well organized and very well advertised too. Yeah.
I'm told, and the official numbers aren't in, but I'm told that the numbers were record in terms of what they brought in that night. So we don't have the last number right now, but that beats what they've done even for their physically attended events in the tent. So this is so it can work.
So
मैं एक बात बताएं, जब आप ऐसा चैरिटेबल कोई काम करते हो, the amount of satisfaction which you get, उसके बारे में बताओ कि how you feel.
Well, I think you can see
how you
can
that,
see the charm.
you get that kind of energy.
But you see the smile on the face, right?
Sure.
This is why. Jyoti and I were talking earlier, and Gupta ji, you know this. I sit on 8 different boards, and why? Because the satisfaction you get, dil ki jiri khushi hoti hai. I mean, you cannot replicate that anywhere else, and it's not just for work, right? It's being out, and there's so many different levels, right? You can go out there and you talk about Voice of India, and it's so important that there be a voice of the community at these different levels as well, and that's part of it too. And so there's a huge amount of satisfaction, and I love it.
मेरा सब आपका वॉइस ऑफ इंडिया स्टूडियो आने के लिए बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. आपने इतना कीमती वक्त निकाल के इतनी बड़ी अच्छी बात है कि हम चाहेंगे कि आप आइंदा फिर.
Oh, anytime. Are you kidding?
Make a regular contributor to our voice of India.
You call, I will be there.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jyoti, for coming.
You here, and it's a pleasure to join you guys. So,
Thank you.
Jyoti, it's a pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.